if I can get an approval for the agenda.
Madam President, I move that we approve the agenda with the following amendments. Additional certified and classified personnel actions for consideration, item number F3. Remove item F4B, Kansas Reading Roadmap Agreement. Remove item F4C, student travel for Garden City High School. Add item F4B, child and adult care food program agreement. And add item K1, executive session.
Okay, can I get a second? Okay, thank you, Mark. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Okay, so approved. We'll move on to the budget hearing for the 2019-20 district budget. Do we need to do anything for this besides approval? I declare that the hearing for the 2019-2020 budget is open for discussion. Are there any patrons who wish to address the board? Okay. Are there any board members who wish to speak? Okay. I would entertain a motion to close the budget hearing.
I move that the budget hearing for the 2019-2020 budget be closed.
Can I get a second? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Great.
Madam President, I move that the Board of Education adopt the 2019-2020 district budget as presented.
Can I get a second? Second. Okay, Jennifer, second. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. All right. Approve the budget. Thank you.
Thanks, KJ, for all your hard work.
Okay, delegations, question and answer, and public comment. Tonight. Great. Any correspondence? We'll move on to the consent agenda.
Madam President, I move that we approve the consent agenda as previously amended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tim. Wait. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Great. We will move on to discussion items. We have the curriculum report with the mental health pilot.
Lovely. So good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Stecky. I'm the school's liaison with Compass Behavioral Health.
My name is Megan Garcia. I'm the Region 1 Director for Compass Behavioral Health.
Last time we saw you all and met with you, we were reflecting on the first semester of our pilot program. So we're here today to reflect on year one as a whole and let you know our plans for year two. To refresh your memory, the mental health pilot program was brought to 6 selected school districts in Kansas to participate in partnering with their community mental health centers to provide therapy in schools during the school day. KSD has provided a database solely for the program where student progress is tracked based on grades, attendance, and disciplinary referrals. This is what our district, along with 5 other district members, look like at the end of year one. We ended with serving 137 students among 5 of our school buildings. That's kind of how we compared with the other school districts. We showed good numbers on our improvement in areas of attendance, behavior, and academic performance at the end of our first year. And those that participated in the program, about 16 have been moved to a different school that we didn't have offering the program or moved out of district.
Could I ask a question? So were those 16 included in those numbers? What were they?
Yeah.
So
Well,
they showed
depending
improvement.
with an improvement, depending if they were here. If they're only participating for a week or two, then no, they're not included. Our first year, we had Alta Brown Elementary, Georgia Matthews Elementary, Florence Wilson Elementary, Torrey Horace Good Middle School and our alternative and therapeutic education program participate.
So can I interrupt before you change slides? These are the ones that were participating in the pilot themselves, but the other schools had Compass in the school, so we could like duplicate. I'm sorry, I didn't look at all of your slides, but.
So through the pilot project, we offered therapy in the schools and also case management. All other schools in the district have case management in the school already, so the addition was the therapy piece. And then we also have a systems of care grant where we do offer other services in different schools as well. So we're kind of all over the district, and we appreciate you allowing us to be there.
I just wanted to make sure it was clear to the public that it wasn't, that your services just weren't in these schools, that
Correct.
other schools had services as well.
Thank you.
Alrighty, last year we had good hours and numbers of services, with April being one of our higher months. Hours of service was 188 and a half, and number of services was 234, which we've come a long way when we first started in August, kind of getting the roll on things. We started with 69 hours and 81 numbers of services. Let's see. In year 2, we will be adding an extra day to Horace Good Middle School, and due to the student population naturally, and we'll be adding Kenneth Henderson Middle School to our buildings. Returning students are averaging about 15 for each building, with the exception of Kenneth Henderson. We're actively rebuilding their student list. Funding, is this being a board meeting? I'm sure is a big question. So with the funding, it's allocated by KSDE, 75% of it, KSDE is allocating 75% of the school liaison position, with 25% responsibility of the school district. And then they have a set approval amount, each of them differing between each school district, but KSDE is covering 100% of that allocation. And Megan can maybe speak more on how they are using those funds.
So Compass Behavioral Health was given around $55,000 to support, 1.5 full-time therapists and 3 full-time case managers. That is not enough to really cover the cost of those providers. So what we've done instead was we have taken that $55,000 and turned it around to where we're writing off services. So if we're seeing a child that has no insurance or is underinsured, we're writing off the portion that we cannot collect through billing. But this position and what we're doing is being sustained through billing.
Alrighty, and what's amazing with year 2 is that they were able to do a great expansion. Year 1, again, 6 schools were participating, and this year 27 school districts will be participating. So, it's awesome. We learned quite a bit in year 1, and our sites start stronger in year 2. Megan and I cannot be happier enough with how well the school staff and the Compass staff work really well to serve our community and students in our school buildings. But I believe I covered all of our topics, so if you have any other follow-up questions,
So they can see the same person in their, is it the same person in all of the schools, or that is divided up?
We make sure it's the same person in the schools. I have broken it out between 4 different therapists at our center to make sure that we're not having one therapist who's losing their home base and they're not around the clinical team. But we make sure that they stay consistent with the same therapist. So each school has a different therapist that they're seeing.
Vaping and e-cigarettes have become a big topic. Are you all able to do any therapy on the addiction aspect of it, or?
Absolutely. If it's brought up, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4. All of them, I was rounding up the therapists in my head, all of them have experience in addressing impulse control issues and ways to reduce undesired behaviors. So this is something that they can address if the student is willing.
Just a quick question, on this particular slide, there's some pretty hefty statistics there that it can be very concerning. And obviously, when you look at these numbers compared to your workload, first pilot year and then looking into this second year, you're just barely even scratching the surface of the kind of statistics you have on that particular slide. And so, number one, it's wonderful that you are here and we are in this collaborative relationship. But it also makes me want to wonder, how do you think it's working as we go forward in identifying cases? I mean, or maybe the question should be asked a little differently. Are cases simply referrals to your services?
In some cases, that is absolutely what is going on. So where we have situations where the therapist doesn't come into the school, our counselors and staff know to refer to Compass. So especially if it's a self-harm situation, we have a protocol that asks them to go to Compass.
Did that answer your question?
It does. I mean, I think you're going to learn as we go forward. Not only we being the collective state of Kansas, but also we as a school district
Yes.
In this collaborative relationship. So,
One of the things we talked about when the three of us sat down, knowing that we could grow the program, is how much can we grow and what can we sustain? And part of it, just like we have difficulty getting teachers, is Megan finding enough therapists, because it would have been wonderful to submit to the state that we wanted all of our schools in this project, but finding the liaisons with the commitment and the skills and the degree to do that, and then finding the therapists. We just felt like we had to move slowly in our growth.
walk before you run.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So we're always kind of told about the stigma with mental health. Do you find that is evolving? Does it help to have it in the school instead of just at your center? Or how does that affect the kids in that setting?
I think that having it at the school does help, especially with the idea that the parents aren't taking them away from the school and then maybe not bringing them back for the rest of the day. And I think it also helps to normalize the idea that normal children could use therapy. It doesn't always mean that there's a severe, persistent mental illness, but that they could benefit as a whole. We're making sure that we protect privacy to the best of our abilities to help reduce the stigma, but a lot of it is also just educating parents that there's not anything morally wrong with your child, that they're having a normal reaction to an abnormal amount of stress. So we're still working on dealing with the stigma every single day. And we do have some parents who choose not to engage because they don't want their kids being labeled as a Compass kid or having a therapist, which is sad. And I think eventually they come around and bring their child in, whether it be because they're willing to or because they've made suicidal statements in the school, and because of school protocol, now they have to be evaluated by a therapist.
I just also had another question. How do you get students, or do they self-identify, or teacher referral, or?
Any and every way. So we have some that come to Compass first, and we realize that they're attending Florence Wilson. So if the parent wants them to be seen at school, we'll refer them to the project. Some students will say that they want help, so they seek it out. Sometimes it's counselor referral, parent referral. It is any and every way possible.
Well, we really appreciate that we are able to collaborate in this way, and thank you so much for taking your time to come and share the progress, and we look forward to the next year, hopefully.
And we do request that you take action on the maintenance of understanding, the MOU between Compass and the school district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want a motion before you start discussion?
Let's do a motion.
Madam President, I move that we approve the memorandum of understanding between USD-457 and Compass Behavioral Health.
Second. Thank you, Mark. This is open for discussion. Did anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, then we'll vote. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Great. Approved as presented. Thank you. We'll move on to new business and have the City of Garden City.
Thank you for having us again. Melissa's going to do the lion's share of this presentation on the opening act, and she's the headliner. We will, this is once again the presentation that we give you annually as a partner in housing development in Garden City. You, along with the college and Finney County, join with the city of Garden City in taking advantage of a tool that's available to the city of Garden City right now. It's a tax increment financing tool aimed specifically at housing in rural areas called Rural Housing Incentive District. And so we've had this tool around for 7 or 8 years. The commitments are to a community housing study. That's got an acronym called CHAT, Community Housing Assessment Team Study. It's done every 2 years, and so this is our report back on that. The other commitment is if the city of Garden City passes an ordinance specific to a project, this has come up in some other presentations to governing boards, so I need to distinguish between a district, the establishment of a district, say if a project comes along, it could happen in this area. Nothing material happens at that point other than just advising the state of Kansas that the city of Garden City has declared an area district. If a project comes along and they do a memorandum, or I'm sorry, they do a development agreement with the city, we have to approve that by ordinance creating a project. So this is what triggers the 15 years tax increment financing tool. Your board, along with the county commission and the community college, have a 30-day protest period by which you can take an adverse action against the project. You're not required to take an action in support of the project. So we've been using the tool. I think Melissa's presentation will show you the extent to which we've used it in the tool. It continues to be successful. I believe the need continues to be there. This presentation is really intended to be evidence to that and to tell you, okay, so what's the next couple years going to look like? So with that, I'll turn it over to Melissa Doherty. She's with our Neighborhood Development Service Department. She's presented to you before, so it's her show.
Well, thank you, Matt. As Matt said, we're here to update you, the school board, about the Rural Housing Incentive District. I'm going to go ahead and start with my presentation of doing the review of the Community Housing Assessment Team Study. That's the chat report. So I'll just give you the Garden City's portion of that report. It also does cover Holcomb and Finney County. And if you'd like copies of that, I can provide you copies of that report as well. Then I'll go ahead and go into talking about the Rural Housing Incentive District, some other housing tools that we use within the city limits, and then how we're attacking some of our housing needs. Okay. As Matt said, we've been doing our chat report is updated every 2 to 3 years. We've been on a consistent schedule that every other year we're coming and updating that. We had a delay this year in updating the Community Housing Assessment Study due to the census releasing some new 5-year American Community Survey data. So we wanted to have the latest and greatest data when we came in to reevaluate our market demand study. Our current update is for 2019, so that'll stand through the year 2021. The chat report gives out statistics regarding housing within Garden City, Holcomb, and Finney County. Of course, this is just a portion that we update every 2 to 3 years. It's just the market demand study. So we haven't done an overall comprehensive study where we've had people come in and evaluate the community, how we've used some of our tools, how people think we're doing, what types of housing they're needing. So that is something that I'll discuss a little bit later. In the 2019 report, the Garden City population was reported at 31,293 people. The chat report in years past has used a 0.7% population growth rate. This is the first year that we've jumped to that 1%. So that means good things are happening here in Garden. As we look at how many people own their homes and how many people are renting, we have a mix of about 61% owner occupied and about 39% renter occupied. When we're talking about how affordable it is to live in our community, we did increase on our median household income by about $3,000. We've had some growth towards people's incomes. Our housing value, however, took a step from $116,000 to $125,000. So that's really $9,000 that our housing market, house values have gone up. Each community housing assessment study provides a value to income ratio. That just is an indicator for us to see how well we're doing as a community, how healthy is our housing market, does it require new housing units to be built, and we're hitting that sweet spot at 2.5 in this last report. When we're talking about our housing needs over the next 10 years, the chat report categorizes the owner-occupied housing markets and the renter-occupied. So when we're looking at our owner-occupied housing market, when we're talking about the affordable to low market, those are homes between the $60,000 range up to $100,000 range. When we move into our moderate market housing bracket, those values of homes are from $101,000 to $200,000, and our high market range are homes that are valued over the $200,000 mark. When we're talking about renter-occupied housing and that affordability, low to moderate affordable renter units, they categorize those up to $700 in our community. And then our higher market rate of renter units are over $700. So the chat report gives us 5-year breakouts for housing needs that we'll need to meet. So from now to 2024, the 2019 report predicts that we'll need 106 units per year to meet the population growth and our housing demands. When we look out from 2025 to 2030, that's going to increase to 133 units per year. So over the next 10 years, they're estimating that we'll need an average of 120 homes per year. In the 2017 report, we only needed 114 homes per year. So because of our population growth and the strides that we made, we'll still be needing a great demand of housing. In 2018, our new single-family home construction, based on valuations from new permits that came through our office, was $187,544 to build a new single-family home in our community. We predict, due to the high construction costs, that we won't be able to build new affordable homes due to the cost of construction. But how we're going to fill that low to moderate market is through homes that are already in and can be rehabbed and brought up to livable standards. Housing development in Garden City, this just shows since 2007 how the housing trend has gone for residential construction activity. We had 48 permits pulled last year for new single-family housing. As you can see, the numbers highlighted in red. 2017 was 114 units when we didn't hit that the last time. So we're really striving to really work hard to make sure that for the 2019 chat report over the next 10 years that we're hitting that 120 per year market. Residential development met the recommendation for the 2017 chat report at about 58%. So some of the conclusions that we've drawn from the community housing assessment study is that the current study as it is for the last few iterations is only addressing the market demand portion. So those are great statistics that we get. They show how on target we are for housing development, where we're at in population growth, how we're growing as a community. However, it isn't a comprehensive look at our housing needs. As I mentioned earlier, it doesn't look at the needs of our community as far as housing types. Do we need more one-bedroom homes? Do we need more six-bedroom homes? Do we need homes that go up? Or do we need more aging-in-place homes where people can stay throughout their homes longer? As well as, we haven't had a comprehensive look at the existing tools that we use. We've been engaging within the department how well our tools have been doing, and things like RHID and the neighborhood revitalization program are vital to helping us get new houses here in Garden City. However, we'd like that to be part of our comprehensive housing study to see really how on target those programs are working for our community. Currently, Finney County and Holcomb, according to our community housing assessment study, do not show a need for the Rural Housing Incentive District tool. So currently, the only place in Finney County that is using the RHID tool is Garden City. It can only be used within our city limits. We've made great strides to address housing needs across income levels. However, there are certain markets that aren't hitting some of their target levels, and we'll see some of those numbers here. So, our current housing incentive tools, as I mentioned, are rural housing incentive districts, special assessments, and neighborhood revitalization program. I'm going to specifically talk to the Rural Housing Incentive Districts program and how well we've been using that here in the community, and I'll also briefly touch on special assessments and neighborhood revitalization. When we're talking about building homes, the only program that helps builders with construction costs right now for that actual house being built is our neighborhood revitalization program. The Rural Housing Incentive District program and special assessments help us build the infrastructure that makes lots ready for developers to come in, builders to come in and build those homes. So there is a distinction of what these programs do, that just because we pass a Rural Housing Incentive District or project doesn't mean that next year you'll see homes built right away. They may take some time to install the infrastructure, and then maybe a year or two down the road you'll start seeing homes built. That's not for every project. Some get started right away in the spring, get that infrastructure in, then they can get homes built by the fall. So rural housing incentive districts have been used in our community since 2012. They're established for 15 years. Items that can be reimbursed are things such as acquisition of the property, site preparation, water lines, sewer, sidewalks, street, curb and gutter, fencing if an area's needing to dedicate playground area or parkland dedication, and they want to install a playground, the playground equipment can be reimbursed through this program as well. The reimbursements are only made for eligible items, and they can, if the development does well, be reimbursed before the 15-year mark. The private developer will put that infrastructure in, and then it gets rededicated to the city. So this is just a little chart that shows you how rural housing incentive districts pay back the developer. So there's going to be a base appraisal amount there in the purple color. That's the continual flow of dollars back to the taxing entities. So you will receive your continued base amount approval for the lots that are being developed. How the developer receives their money back is through the improved appraised amount, and that's the amount that once they put that infrastructure in and build the house, that appraisal that goes up, they get a part of that back to them as developed. Either once the project has built out, or 15 years, that's when the new tax base is created and all the funding dollars go back to your taxing entity. So this map illustrates the types of developments that we've had here in Garden City. The areas in gold are the developments that have been completely built out. So no more homes will be built in those projects. The areas in blue are RHIDs that have been approved by the governing body and are either currently building or on schedule to build. The areas in the pinkish red hue are areas that we've pre-marked as developable areas for developers through the state. So if a developer came in tomorrow, was looking to use the Rural Housing Incentive District, we could say we've already have some pre-state approved areas that you can come in to develop, and it helps them be able to start their development a little quicker. They won't have to go through one step. We've already done the step for them. And that is requested at the property owner's request. We just don't come in and say, you have to be in the RHAD program. So we do have people come to us and ask to be in this program. There are currently 19 established RHIDs located throughout Garden City. As I mentioned, 4 of those have been fully developed. In the year of 2018, last year, we approved 7 new RHIDs were established for housing development. We were on hiatus for the RHID program due to not having the chat report. So RHIDs, there's nothing that's come before the governing body since January of this year. We did approve the resolution to annually renew the program in July, and that's one of the reasons I'm coming to talk to you guys. So you should probably start seeing a little more about those coming up at the city commission meetings as developments come through they'll have that option to use it through the end of the year. 18 new units were completed in 2018. Over the next 3 years, we project that there will be 465 units to be built. 170 of those projected units will be rental units, both market and affordable rates. And then currently we have nearly 234 acres in the RHAB program. And these are just highlights some of the developments that we passed last year. Notting Hill is probably the most visible one as you're shopping at Target, as I like to do, or you're traveling to Kansas Avenue. That development is projected to have all of their 12 units approved this year. So another tool that we offer developers is special assessments. This is where the developer comes to us and says, I really can't afford to put in my infrastructure. I'd like to put a special assessment of taxes on my properties. So what they'll do is come in and work with us to install infrastructure only. This includes the sidewalks, streets. Typically it's for sewer lines and water lines. This is more of an infill development tool. We don't do it for a lot for the newly annexed areas into town. This special tax is then assessed to each of the lots. The person that purchases the lots can either pay off the special assessment in one lump sum, or over the next 10 years, that can be an additional assessment placed onto their taxes. As I mentioned earlier, Neighborhood Revitalization Program is a tax rebate program. It's one of the only program, I should say few, that we have within the current city ability to provide a tax rebate back to homeowners, developers, when they actually build a house structure. This can be rebated either 7 or 10 years, depending on where you live in which blue area. There is a minimum level of investment. For single family, that's $5,000. We're talking about commercial and multifamily, they're required to put in $10,000 minimum to receive that rebate. Single family homes and historic properties are able to receive a 95% rebate. And then multiple family and commercial receive 75%. And the really nice thing I like about this program is that, so if I'm the builder and I come in and build the house and I decide to live there a year and I'm getting the rebate, and then I'm like, oh, I want to move on to a bigger and greater house next door, I can actually transfer my rebate to the new homeowner that I sell the house to. And that's a one-time transfer, so that's really kind of unique to our program that makes it universally continue to be used and a benefit to homeowners. So when we're talking about our attaining housing needs, this graph shows the overall plan, which is in that greenish line that you see projecting way out there to 2030. And the red is the overall planned, and then the blue is the actual builds. So those are the actual houses that we've issued certificate of occupancies for. The way in which we get the overall plan is each RHID project that comes through our office is required to tell us how many lots they intend to build and approximately how many units they build. So within their development agreement and RHID agreement, we have a pretty good number of how many houses will be built within each of those developments. So come 2025, 2026, we're gonna meet our need. And then the next year, that need is going to continue to raise and the overall plan is gonna level out. So at one point, we're gonna hit that puck and then it'll keep scooting along. So it seems like we have a lot of stuff on the books, but in reality, we'll still have a great demand for housing need once we hit the 2025, 2026 years out. So we'll now go into looking at the market levels. So affordable low to market occupied housing needs are currently not being met through the RHAD program. In the next 5 years, 72% of the moderate market will be met through the RHAD program. And at this time, new RHAD development after 5 years is slated to meet moderate housing needs. When we look at our high market needs by 2030, oh goodness. will meet our projected demand by nearly 30%. When we look at our rental market needs, by 2030, we will still be at a deficit of nearly 30%. We did have some some RHID developments passed last year that will be offering both affordable and market rental rates. Moving forward, we see that RHIDs remain available to propose developments, homes within the affordable and low market rate. An evaluation of rental needs will be conducted with that next housing study to really evaluate where we're at with our housing needs. We have been evaluating the RHID program on a year-to-year basis, and with some of the changes, it hasn't been changed since we've established it. And so within our department, we'll be reviewing that and going through some proposed changes that could be used to meet some of our affordable to moderate market needs. And we'll be bringing those changes back to you by the end of the year, because now that we've already done our chat report, we will have to wait for, in 2020, a delay. This chat report will stand for the next 2 years for us to use to pass the annual renewal. We'll also work to guide developers to fill the needed gap in existing and predicted housing inventory. And as I said, that next chat report, we really look to have a comprehensive housing analysis done for our community. Just not that market demand side, where we look at the housing types, where people are really looking to live. In the last housing report, downtown was a targeted area. We've made a lot of great strides in addressing housing needs in downtown, so we really want to look at what's our next steps and where's the next area we may want to develop. So that's the end of my presentation, and I'll take any questions or comments.
As a non-developer layperson, it's very interesting what you have to present, but I think I'm hearing we're not meeting needs. I mean, we're not able to. I mean, you're simply presenting tonight on tools, but even with those tools, we're falling way short. And as a school district, and the challenges of getting people out here, but also getting them housing, there's still opportunity for innovation. Let me maybe put it in those terms. We still have a housing challenge as a district, and so not only am I behind Tyson, but I'm behind you 100% trying to get the community what it needs for housing, and we don't have a complete solution here. It appears.
You're absolutely right. We don't. I don't know what the answer is. It would have already appeared as a proposal 5 or 6 years ago. I suspect it looks like further subsidization. Where does that come from? This is the most aggressive subsidy. Look, we tried like 10 different tools and nothing stuck. I mean, you just can't find private sector businesses intentionally looking for projects where they'll lose lots of money. You can show 700 units, but if you're going to lose $10,000 on each one of those units, how many of you would sign up to do that work? It doesn't matter that the need's there, you're going to lose money. And so the most aggressive tool that we've found is the one that leverages for 15 years the property tax increment generated from new construction from 4 tax increments. And that's incredibly powerful. By example, we've got projects that, let's say a phase of one of the most recent subdivisions built with $250,000 houses when they get to the market. If they build out quickly, they project to generate somewhere between $1 million and $1.5 million. There's a state housing agency that competitively awards maybe 7 or 8 grants a year. Maximum award for any one of those projects is $400,000 and mostly $250,000. So the best blue ribbon that the state of Kansas has to offer, we triple that and still can't generate enough demand. I think one thing that'll help us is there's no science behind this, because the science would say supply and demand coming here. We should have developers lined up outside to do it. If we can find a way to get this tool available to use out in Finney County and in Holcomb as well, we remove one of the three biggest expense barriers: land, cost of materials, cost of construction, or the margin in construction. Those are the three drivers where we're out of whack with the rest of the market. Since we're landlocked to the city of Garden City's growth pattern, that for two reasons. One, the extension of utilities that are important, but the other is this tool. Why would you build it anywhere else? And so you're willing to pay a little bit more money. So that's it's created some housing where we didn't have it before, but it's also sort of served the problem as well, if that makes sense. So we're really looking for how do we unlock this. It's one market. It makes no sense that you can use this in Garden City because it's rural, but Finney County won't market rural, or that those might be two different markets than our market. It should not only be Finney County, it should be a 60, 70 mile range. You know where your teachers come from. They're not looking at it. So,
Well, Matt, I wanted to ask you that because it was clear at the beginning of the presentation that this was only a Garden City presentation. So you just said something that was sort of part of the question is there, in this deficit in Finney County, is it being made up out in the county or by Holcomb or,
Yeah.
and I think I heard you just say, no, it is not.
and we could use the help. I mean, they want to help. I mean, it's a problem that we've got to figure out how to solve it. We don't know if we do it through the study side or it's something legislatively that we can, say, or in a 25-mile radius of any city that's deemed to be eligible for housing in the district. So that's something that we've got to figure out over the coming year. We're looking to solve that problem. All we've done is kept pace with the annual demand. We haven't ever chipped into this deficit that we identified 10 years ago. We've just barely kept pace and arguably fallen a little bit behind that pace every year. So, but thank you for the partnership. We wouldn't be where we are now, which is, we'd be further behind than we are now if it weren't for your partnership, as well as with the community college in Finney County. So.
I was just wondering if the housing that's available includes the mobile homes that are in our area, or if they're going to be structures that are built on property. I don't know if they are considered as suitable housing or available housing for purposes of this done.
Yeah, so they do an evaluation of all housing units that are in our community, so that would include mobile homes, residential design manufactured homes. One of the ideas is like, we'll just put in residential design manufactured homes, that should hit the 60 to 100,000 mark. If you've ever been in one of those new residential buildings, we see the evaluations come in for those at nearly the $200,000 mark. So even that type of housing, while that is maybe a personal preference for that property owner that is purchasing that type of home, the price points on those are even higher than hitting that really low to affordable moderate income level.
So we really need a lot more affordable housing for folks. Is there any other grant or other programs that are available to us?
We're eligible for some under, within the last few years, we've been eligible under USD-457 for some of their rural housing, which we were never eligible for that before because we're too large of a city. Certainly income qualified housing, reserves of Prairie Ridge is an example of that. There are some, they just pale in comparison, and it can't be to property tax tools, right? I mean, the three that we showed you right up there, all three of them are property tax tools. You can't stack those. But you can stack one of those three property tax tools with an income tax credit tool with a grant from Kansas Housing Resource Corporation, even though they're competitive. We've probably outpunched our weight class on that over the years. So there's ways to sort of stack some things together. difficult. There's not gonna be any new construction that comes in those lower marks. Nobody's gonna come in and build, like, again, there's not gonna be a developer that signs up to go meet the need in the 300 units and lose 20,000 on each unit. We can hope that we get housing where we can in the short term to begin seeing units move through those ranges and freeing up some housing stock at those lower levels. For a long time, the city of Garden City had this tool, and this was back when maybe it was even a little more realistic. It says, we'll give you that money, but you gotta go build a $125,000 home. That was a waste of the paper we printed on. Nobody's gonna go in and lose money, and the carrot wasn't worth going after it. Like, go build the same house, sell for $175, who hands there for it? And that $50,000 margin's a lot better than the $10,000 we were gonna give us. So we had to learn the hard way through some of those times, but then when we began really introducing the Rural Housing Incentive District, after a conversation with, it was a community conversation, all the elected officials from Finney County got together and said, what are our big problems facing it? Everybody said housing. Everybody told stories of 4 teachers new to Garden City sharing basements of homes that were already lived in and those types of things. So everybody was experiencing it, and that was when the group decided to kind of go all in on the use of this tool. And while it has worked to create housing when we didn't have any at all, it still doesn't have all the answers. We're looking at trying to create some just unique tools that may fall a little bit more on just the city of Garden City for rehabilitation. And so there's reinvestment. Maybe some of those units aren't lived in right now. If you can even get into something, it's being lived in. Short of being torn down, it's being rented out. So but still over time, it's better for the community if we find a way to get some reinvestment into that. Trying to help underwrite some of the risk for developers in doing that. And then also vertical. I mean, Melissa mentioned, I think that the next study will help legitimize this strategy, but the extension of utility services is one of those 3 big barriers to growth. If we could go up and take advantage of the infrastructure that's already there, that's better long term. Now, that may not be for everybody, but in a community that for 40 years has been an average age of somewhere between 27 or 30, we can handle a few flights of stairs. We'll begin looking at some of those projects as well.
Any other questions? We really appreciate your
Thank you.
time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to consider the ratification of the 2019-2020 negotiated agreement.
All right, so last week, the teachers had an opportunity to cast their vote on whether or not they were in favor of the agreement that was reached tentatively by the negotiations team back early at the beginning of the summer. Overwhelmingly, the teachers' vote was to ratify that agreement. I believe the vote was 349 to 29, seems about right. We had about 2/3, whoa, getting all excited here. Sorry, I want you to get ahead of yourself. We had almost exactly 2/3 of the potential voters cast a ballot, which was great, and over 90% of them were in favor of the agreement. So the buck passes to the board now for you guys to take a look and ratify the agreement, should that be your choice. But before I ask for that, I kind of wanted to go back and just kind of review the things that were decided when we went through negotiations, just so that you kind of are reminded of what it is you're actually voting on. First of all, this is probably going to go faster than me. These are the members of the negotiations team, and just to kind of reiterate, the district uses the IBB process, which is interest-based bargaining. It's, I really didn't do a very good job of stopping that. So we'll just go this way. It's basically an approach whereby as a team, as a unit, we decide what the problems are, and then we come up with solutions that are basically a win-win for everyone involved. So it's a much better option than traditional bargaining. We're actually coming to the table and solving problems. And I think we had some very good conversations this year. Some of them were a little tough, but very good conversations. I do think we have two members, no, we have three of you. All of you have three of you. So I wanted to introduce the Gca members that were part of the negotiating team. You guys get to stand and introduce yourselves.
I'm Gil Perea, and I was the chairperson for the negotiations team on the on behalf of the GCEA.
I'm Ron Whited. This is the 4th year I've been on the negotiating teams, and I'll be the incoming negotiating chair for next year.
I'm Alexander Lingan.
He is our vice president.
And then in addition, we had Darla Jackson, who was part of that team. Your two board members for this year were Dana and Laura, so thank you both for coming to the table with Keith and I. That was, like I said, we had some really good discussions, and it was very good opportunity for us to move forward with some things. So first of all, we'll try it this time. See if I can talk with the slideshow. So salaries and wages. So we're going to maintain the salary schedule for this year. Everyone who's eligible for step and column movement will have that increase. Additionally, we'll have retroactive pay increases for anyone who received an August check. It's not many, but some will. That will be in their September check. The base salary will be increased by $1,500. So our new base will be $41,782. Last year we were able to bridge that $40,000 mark, which was nice, and now we're able to add a little bit more to it. Overall, as an average increase, if we looked at all certified staff as a whole, it's an average increase of 4.04%. We don't have our health insurance rates for next year. However, I've seen some preliminary results. We are expecting an increase, but we are not anticipating passing those on to any employees where the district is going to cover that. So that's an additional piece that's not included in that 4.04%. The team also heard from the supplemental salary committee, and these were the supplementals that we've added for this year that will be added to the negotiated agreement at the various levels based on the amount of time that is expected to be incurred by each one of those individuals. Attendance compensation. This is the second year of a pilot. I don't have my numbers exact, but in year one, when we established our baseline, I want to say it was just under 20 something. We had about 20 people who took one or less days of leave. We added the attendance compensation where they would receive an additional $500 if they took no more than 1 day of leave during the year, and we actually pulled that number. If it was 25, it went to 50. I can't remember. It's somewhere around there. So hopefully that is something that's helping. Obviously, being short on staff, being short on substitutes is a burden for everyone. So the more we can keep teachers in the classroom, the better for all of our students. And personal leave, this is really more of an administrative change. It's kind of a win-win for everybody. The district sends out stacks of paper to staff that have personal days at the end of the year, wanting to know, do you want to roll them over as personal days? Do you want to turn them into emergency leave days? Do you want to sell them? What this does is this automatically rolls them over into personal days. You can use a personal leave day as an emergency leave day if you wanted to, but it just kind of alleviates some of that headache with paperwork. So it's kind of what's in the best interest for everyone who doesn't require paperwork. And I believe that was it. Any questions on the changes we made related to the tentative agreement? Okay, then I would just ask that you ratify the agreement so that we can move forward.
Madam President, I move that we ratify the 2019-2020 negotiating agreement as presented.
Have a second? Thank you, Mark. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Same sign. Thanks. As presented, thank you. Okay, so that leaves us with board open discussion. Anybody wants to volunteer this? Mark, you want to start us off?
I have nothing this evening.
I'll start then.
Yeah,
I have
thanks,
nothing
Ted.
to-
Oh. Okay.
I've been, I'm just excited for the new school years. We're off to a great start. So excited to see what it offers.
I'm gonna be going to the KUSB board meeting this weekend, so I'm looking forward to that and bringing back some information for us. Not our retreat Monday, but our regular meeting, so she'll have some thoughts from that. So, it looked like, Frank Henderson got some really good information from the National School Board Association Leadership Summit this last week. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what's going on at the federal level.
Well, I'd like to thank Mark and Laura. We got together on Friday and came up with some more norms to look at the retreat. And so we'll have, I think, a full agenda for the retreat. So we look forward to that. Dr. Carlin?
Yeah, just a couple things, thanks. First, thanks to everybody in response to the event at Tyson. While still, I'm sure there's a lot more information that we're gonna learn as we go through the next few months. I know our schools have done a great job of trying to address student needs and family needs as we work with people as they're dealing with uncertainty in their lives, and certainly Tyson's response has been great, but I will tell you, I think this past week, and I don't have a whole lot of wood to knock on here, but we had a phenomenal start to the school year, probably the smoothest in the last 5 years. Given all the things that we have going on in the community as a result of that, that's really a tribute to our staff and our families. And it was a long week because we started on Monday, so that kind of compounded the opportunities to have strange things happen, but we seem to have a pretty good, pretty smooth start.
Steve, could I ask you a quick question on those lines?
Sure.
When's the last time we started with a full week? Was it 2 years ago?
Might have been.
Last year we did.
Last year we did not, I think the previous year we did.
Oh, okay. That's the only feedback I got back was, it's tough on everybody to adjust, but then to adjust and do it for a full week.
And one of the things we try to consider through the calendar committee is that, we get feedback through those survey results like that. And this year, juggling our back-to-back in-service days that we have in September and backing up to keep those semesters equal, that's kind of the way it worked out. We're at the mercy of where days fall and those kinds of things, but certainly something we consider as a group.
Yeah, so feedback there would be get with the calendar committee. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Just kind of a reminder, October 1st, the state board will be in town that evening, so if you have time on your calendar, you will be receiving an invitation, I think 6:30 to 8, kind of a panel discussion of the state board, our board, the community college board, the city and county commission will be invited along with some chamber members. So if you have that time available, kind of pencil that in. Looking forward to that and happy that they thought of us. And then certainly, some families may qualify for free or reduced meals, and they can come in at any point, with their current income information and submit an application, and we are helping families with that. There's also some support that we provide for families through our supplemental service office, and, they can come in at any point, and we'll be happy to, help them, do the appropriate paperwork and determine whether or not they qualify for additional support. And I might comment, I know Tracy Johnson, was scheduled to receive an award from the state board, last week, but chose to forego going to Topeka for that award. We're gonna present it to her, I think, in October here, because, we knew we'd have kind of an increase in people coming to the office, for some of that, so she stayed here and, made sure that we were able to provide that support, but that, we're prepared to continue that on, as long as necessary.
Any other comments? Okay, the next board meeting of the Board of Education will take place on Monday, September 9th, 2019, at 6 p.m. in the board meeting room at the Educational Support Center. We will go into executive session, so about how long?
Let's do 50. Let's do.
Madam President, I move that we go into executive session for 20 minutes to discuss a personnel matter pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under the Kansas Open Meetings Act, beginning at 7:05. And the open meeting will resume in the board meeting room at 7:25. I would like to invite Dr. Carlin and Lindsay Beagle to join us in executive session.
Do we have to? All in favor? Oh, I need a second.